Valley Valley Bank directing blame for the institution's sudden collapse, uh, squarely on the CEO who made the decision to announce the simultaneous bond sell-off and stock sale last week that triggered the last-minute run of deposit shelter and calling for a helicopter rescue. Our primatologists say that it takes a lot to accidentally dislodge a 60-kilogram boulder, suggesting the baboons were either trying to attack or just up to mischief. That's one hell of a mischief, if you're really thinking about it. One hiker says that the rocks weren't thrown, they were dislodged when the boulder fell. So there you go. Meanwhile, is in Washington State, a freight train reportedly plowed through a herd of at least 24 elk that were lingering on the tracks late last week. Despite sounding the whistle initially for the emergency brake, it was not able to stop in time. One rep for the train company tells local media that the ensuing scene was disturbing. I mean, you would figure that it has to be disturbing.
Safety in a way never heard of before. The Rated R Safety Show on Safety FM.
Okay, NASA's most recent budget request includes $180 million to begin developing a new space tug that will play a role in deorbiting the International Space Station when it's scheduled to be decommissioned in 2030. Reps for NASA say that the space tug project would cost around $1 billion. The current deorbiting plan relies that Russian technology, but NASA would like more reliability, especially after some of the recent equipment malfunctions on board the Russian components of the ISS. So, what do you think? Stuff to think about there for sure. Anyways, take a listen to this. Ford has identified a specific cause of a fire that halted the production of the F-150 Lightning models last month. Fortunately, the specific battery cell defect is the only present in 18 vehicles currently on the road. These customers have been notified and that they can get the battery cell swapped out at their dealer. In the meantime, they'll provide them with a loaner truck. Now, I have a question. Are they providing them with another electric vehicle? Because I have had electric vehicles in the past. And when they give you the loaner, yes, the loaner normally is not an electric vehicle, which makes it extremely odd because you go, well, hold on. I have an electric. I have a hybrid. I have X. That's not what you're providing me. But can you really bitch about which loaner you get? I mean, I don't know, but it's something to talk about. Anyways, take a listen to this. Let's talk about the charts. What are the top 5 songs on Apple Music and Spotify? Let's go from Apple Music to Spotify. Coming in at number 1 was Morgan Wallen with Ain't That Some. At number 4 was Pink Panthers and Ice Spice with Boys Are Liars Part 2. At number 3 was Morgan Wallen with Everything I Love. Morgan Wallen at number 2 with Think About Me. And at number 1, Morgan Wallen with Last Night. Last week, he had all 5 top songs on Apple Music. So that changed this week. Let's see. On Spotify, it goes like this. Pink Panthers and Ice Spice, Boys Are Liars Part 2. At number 4, it is Carol G and Shakira with TQG. At number 3 is Za with Kill Bill. At number 2, The Weeknd and Ariana Grande, Die For You remix. And at the number 1 spot, according to Spotify, it's Miley Cyrus with River. So there you go. Anyways, take a listen to this coming out of the music charts. This is the sick bay. Bruce Springsteen is postponing tonight's concert in Albany due to an unknown illness. The E Street Band member Steve Van Zandt shared that his own update with the fans, telling them not to worry that while adding just a temporary situation, we will be back full force very soon. It is the third such cancellation for the band in a week. So there you go. There you go. There you go. Okay, so let's talk about this before I get much further. I know, getting swampy already, and I don't like it. But in addressing the government backstomping of uninsured deposits at Silicon Valley Bank, President Joe Biden says that he is firmly committed to holding those responsible for this mess fully accountable. Worth noting, SVB is not have tanked if the interest rates hadn't been so creepily up slowly over the months. Interest rates would be creeping up slowly for months if they weren't rampant inflation. There wouldn't be rampant inflation. Well, if there was all kinds of stuff that you take a look at in regards of what the government has done over the last few years. So there you go. I don't know. I don't know what to say. Anyway, take a listen to this. President Joe Biden has approved a $7 billion oil and gas drilling project in Alaska in a swift drawing criticism from the green wing of his progressive supporters. The project only allows for 3 drilling sites, not the 3 that ConocoPhillips wanted. The project is expected to bring new jobs and revenue to Alaska, which is heavily dependent on energy industry. When completed, the project is expected to bring more than 180,000 barrels of oil into Alaska's pipeline. Yeah, and that's in a day. That is in a day. So, I mean, that's something to think about. So, with that being said, I think it is time to talk about the market beat. So, why don't we bring some John Small inside of here and let him tell you what's going on?
Here's your Market Beat Minute for Tuesday, March 14th, brought to you by GenesisGoldIRA.com. Equity markets plunged to start the week. The move was driven by fear of spreading contagion related to the collapse of the Silicon Valley Bank and others in the financial industry. The S&P 500 managed to claw its way back into positive territory on an intraday basis, but was unable to close at the high of the day. The takeaway for investors and traders alike is the market hit a new low and can be expected to hit more new lows in the coming days. Today's CPI report could stave off a deeper market correction if it shows inflation is cooling. The risk is that it will show inflation has accelerated as the PCE price index did, which will not be good for equities. In that scenario, the FOMC should be expected to continue hiking rates and putting additional pressure on the economy. The question is, how much more pressure can the economy take before it cracks in a way the government can't bail out? You can get the inside track at marketbeatminute.com.
You know how it is. John Small keeps it real around here with everything that he has going on and talking about. So let me tell you a little bit of what I found. The Dow lost about 90 points on Monday to close at 31,819. The S&P lost about 5 points to close at 3,855. The NASDAQ added about 49 points to close at 11,188. West Texas Intermediate closed at $74 a barrel, and Brent crude closed at $80 a barrel. The national average price of a gallon of gas was $3.47 on Monday. Bitcoin had another gangbuster day, up 8.5% and trading over just $24,000. And here we go. Another massive day. There was more than 6,000 flights delayed within, into, and out of the United States on Monday, and more than 187 such cancellations. Tonight's Mega Million drawing will be for a $229 million jackpot or for a $120.6 million cash payout. So there you go. Some stuff to take a look at as we are talking. So what do you think about that? I want to talk about this real quick, as I mentioned it at the top. Playboy is planning to relaunch its magazine as a digital publication later this year. The revamped magazine will serve as an elevated, safe, and exclusive alternative to OnlyFans, according to a press release. Also, instead of Playboy bunnies, there will be Playboy creators who will post adult and non-adult content in the pages. Another big difference is that anyone who can become an OnlyFans creator, but Playboy's creators have to apply to be accepted in his editorial team. And the statement explains, worth remembering, Playboy stopped publishing the printed magazine in 2020 after suffering COVID-related supply chain issues. So there you go. So if you had not heard about that, that's what's going on. Anyways, take a listen to this. Illinois is the 3rd state in the nation to mandate paid time off to be used for any reason. Governor Pritzker yesterday signed legislation that provides employees with up to 40 hours of paid leave during a 12-month period.
Sometimes life gets in the way of life. Things happen in your life that are maybe small emergencies to someone else, but a big emergency in your own life.
As a result, 1.5 million workers will begin earned paid time off starting in 2024. So there you go. Anyways, keeping it right there in Illinois, Governor Pritzker isn't endorsing candidate in the Chicago mayor's race. The governor was asked yesterday if Brandon Johnson or Paul Valles have asked for his endorsement ahead of the April the 4th runoff.
They have, and I've told them, as I've told all of you, I think it's important for me to stay clear of endorsing, mainly because I want to make sure that we're able to work together, whoever it is that wins.
That's probably the smartest decision to do. You know what I'm saying there? Because you never want to endorse somebody and then be like, oh, shit, I endorsed the other person. It's kind of the way that it goes. Okay, take a listen to this coming out of Michigan. Anyone who comes from a family making less than $70,000 a year will be able to attend Wayne State University with free tuition. Governor Whitmore joined university officials yesterday to make the announcement, saying that applicants need to fill out the FAFSA. So take a listen.
The FAFSA is what ultimately qualifies you for additional federal aid as well. And that's why this, when you combine it with all the different things that are available, it drops it to zero.
I like the drop to zero. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, the school will start the program this fall. The median income in Michigan is in 2021 was $64,488. Detroit Mayor Mike Duggan is excited about Wayne State University's free tuition.
They have before offered free tuition to Detroiters. Now they're basically extending it to students graduating high school all across Michigan.
So there you go. Some stuff going on there in Michigan. So there you go. Anyways, the Paw Paw Township Board Commission has come up with a proposal of the consumer energy for 20-mile power distribution line, and it's cut through the residential properties, and residents spoke against it in a meeting last night.
I want to point out that I'm 42 years old, worked for 20 years to save enough money to put down the down payment that cost me $42,000 to buy this vineyard. And in no way, shape, or form I'm going to let this go across my fund.
Several concerns were brought up, including the wildlife in the area. One resident says the eagles are in the area and was worried about the nest being destroyed. The woman spoke about the consumer energy proposal for a new 20-mile power line.
It seems very difficult to get any level of clarity of, what rights do we have? It seems that if we own our property, we should be able to say we don't want this happening.
Oh, you have to read some of those things on how that works. I mean, let's just be realistic on how it comes about. Apparently, there's a lot of news coming out of Michigan today. I don't know what the hell is going on. I don't know. I don't really want to continue talking about Michigan. I mean, let's not. Let's continue going into something else. The White House is stressing that taxpayers aren't on the hook for the Silicon Valley Bank after regulators cease the assets of the failed bank.
Not a bailout.
Not a bailout? Really? That was the comment? Let's do that again.
Not a bailout.
Not a bailout.
Not a bailout.
Wow. Okay, that was very informative. Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said the money for the depositors will come from the fees that the banks pay into the Deposit of Insurance Fund, emphasizing that this isn't what happened in 2008 financial crisis. President Biden said that investors of SVB won't be protected and that the management of the bank will be fired. White House spokesperson Karine Jean-Pierre says the Silicon Valley Bank isn't getting the government bailout after regulators cease the assets of the failed bank. Take a listen.
The funds are from fees on banks and not taxpayers, so this is very different than what we saw in 2008.
So there you go. Some stuff going on. And I guess because we are so swampy this morning, why not take it a little bit further? Former President Trump is taking aim at Florida Governor Ron DeSantis as his 2024 campaign is off and running. During a speech in Iowa on Monday, Trump ripped the fellow Republican over farm policy, claiming that DeSantis often voted to cut subsidies for agricultural products, including ethanol.
He was very, very bad on ethanol, and he fought it all the way, and he also fought against Social Security. He wanted to decimate it and voted against it 3 times.
So there you go. The former president also accused DeSantis of wanting to cut Social Security and Medicare. It was Trump's first Iowa stop for his 2024 presidential bid, and campaign just days after DeSantis visited the Hawkeye state. Meantime, Trump told reporters earlier Monday that he probably regrets endorsing the former congressman. I don't know. So many different things happen when it comes to the world of politics that I don't like getting into the swamp. But hey, it's something that we have to do from time to time because that's where our stories lead us. Anyways, with that being said, it is 32 minutes past the top of the hour, so it might be time to do that thing.
Here is our main story on the Rated R Safety Show.
Oh, yes, Rated R Safety Show, main story. So, we get to hang. We get to do some stuff. We get to take a look at the world of the swamp. We get to take a look at the world of everything when it's all said and done. And listen, I attempt not to shy away from any subject matter that we get to hang on, that we get to hang out and talk about. But today, we should probably talk about this little thing that is not often stressed, it is not often talked about, and it is not often, we'll say, praised to an extent. How often do you embrace failure? Yeah, you heard me. Embrace failure. Like something that you planned out, something that you wanted to do, failed. And I'm not talking like failed, like, oh, yeah, all right. I'm talking like it catastrophically failed. And I mean that it was like conceived, planned, and it didn't work out to any of the way that you expected it to do what exactly you had planned. Do you embrace those things? Do those things make you happy? Now, listen, I will tell you, there has been times in my life that I have planned things out, and I really thought that they were going to work perfecto, and they didn't relatively even come close to doing the things that I wanted. And as I looked at it more and more and more, I kind of giggled and I kind of laughed and I kind of smiled because I look at it and I go, these are some great learning opportunities. And, this is going to make some people think of going, oh, do you think you should get a participation award? No. But here's the thing that I learned. It was using those failures to actually use them as stepping stones to get to where I wanted to go to. And listen, sometimes you might take one step forward and two steps back in opposites attract, or maybe I'm quoting a Paula Abdul song. But what I look at is when it comes to that whole thing is that those learnings of the failures that occurred have led me to different places that I didn't expect that those failures were going to lead me to. I will tell you, I have sat here and many, many moons ago, busted my ass trying to figure out some web applications. And for the time that I was trying to build some of these things out, they were not really for what I thought I was going to use them for, but led me other directions. And I think that sometimes as we work in large organizations, we tend to forget to embrace our failures. And I mean that from the whole standpoint of, listen, you have to embrace these things, and not everything that we attempt to do is great. And not everything that we attempt to do is the things that are going to work out. But do we ever look at them and go, okay, just because they did not work out does not mean that they did not have good enough structure to move forward. Now think about that. There are some times that we make some plans and things don't work out perfectly, but there are certain portions of that plan that could work for something else. And we tend to forget that some of the people that are the smartest people in the room are the people that work and do the work from the frontline perspective. So if you have what you think or quote unquote is a good plan, maybe asking them the question on, do you think this will work to fix X? Because if you do a plan and it fails, do you learn from it? Or do you punish yourself or punish the people around you that came up with the plan? Because that's always the interesting part. We can either learn or improve or fail and punish. Think about that. There's so many times in life that we want to punish people for failures. And blaming and punishing for failures just doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't expect everything that I do to work out every single time. Would it be great if it did? Of course it would. It would make life simpler, but it's that learning experience on those failures that sometimes make things better. Remember, it's not about being helicoptered up. It's about learning the process as you go. Think about that for a moment.
Oops. Oops. What did he just say?
We at Safety FM don't always agree with the viewpoints of our hosts and guests.
Now back to real safety talk on Safety FM.
Don't go anywhere.
You're listening to the home of real safety talk.
You are listening to Safety FM. We'll be right back.
Let's start using cutting-edge warp speed 5G technology with your cell phone. Let me tell you about my friends at mobile.io. They have an ultra-fast 4G LTE and 5G network that covers 99% of Americans. So they've got you covered everywhere. Think about it for a moment. You have the opportunity to take a test drive for 10 days with unlimited talk, text, and premium data. What is premium data? Premium data is an allotment of a cellular data that you receive from a higher priority on the network. You won't get throttled like you will with some of those, well, non-brand service providers. To find out more information, all you have to do is go to mobile.io. That's mobile.io to start your 10-day free trial.
To some people, the sound of a baby babbling doesn't mean much. But that's not necessarily true. By 6 months, they're combining vowels and consonants. By 9 months, they're trying out different kinds of sounds. And by 12 months, their babbling is beginning to take on some meaning. Especially if there's no babbling at all. Little to no babbling by 12 months or later is just one of the possible signs of autism in children. Early screening and intervention can make a lifetime of difference and unlock a world of possibilities. Take the first step at autismspeaks.org. A public service announcement brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
The following is made possible by Dad.
Why was the basketball court all wet? Because the players kept dribbling all over it.
The dad joke. Corny, grown-worthy, but also one of the simplest ways to share a moment with your kids.
Why do you have to be careful when it's raining cats and dogs? Because you might step in a poodle.
And kids that spend more time with their dads grow up to be smarter, more successful.
Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding.
And with any luck, funnier adults.
Why didn't the skeleton go to the dance? Because he didn't have any body to go with.
Dad jokes rule. So take a moment to make a moment and give your kid a laugh. It's as easy as going to fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
That's really funny.
Is your safety training old, stale, and hacky? Safety trainers still preaching a warped version. How about safety training that actually addresses your hazards in your workplaces and is not standardized baloney from 25 years ago? Contact the Safety Wars team at safetywords.com or call Jim Polzel at 845-269-5772. Remember, if you're receiving this message, you are the solution to unsafe workplaces.
Hey, are you tired of hanging around and talking about safety in a boring kind of format? Well, I got something for you. If you haven't hung out with us yet at safetyfm.com, I'm going to encourage you to do so. Yeah, if you come out to Safety FM, you can come hang out with all kinds of safety professionals. Some are safety professionals, some are just people that are talking about safety. But we want to do it in a format that makes it fun and entertaining. If you're kind of trying to figure out what the FM portion is, well, we're a radio station and also a podcast network. You can come out, hang out, listen to my show, The Jay Allen Show. You can listen to Todd Conklin with the pre-accident investigation, Blaine J. Hoffman with the Safety Pro, the Hop Nerd, Sam Goodman, just to name a few on what can be found on the station. Different things for different people, trying to bring safety in an entertaining form. SafetyFM.com. Go to the website, download the app, and carry it with you all day long. SafetyFM.com. We'll be waiting for you.
Tearing the ass out of you like gas station sushi. Radio. show is almost as enjoyable as hearing the sound of the toilet flush. Rated R Safety Show on Safety FM.
Come on, let your body go. So let's go. No hesitating. We gotta move, we gotta shake, we gotta get up on our feet and liberated. Feel like something's out of control. Your mind says yes and your body says oh, let's go.
Oh, let's go, let's go, let's go. This is the Rated R Safety Show. It is currently 44 minutes past the top of the hour. And we're talking about going. Okay, this song right here is called Let's Go by Ghost Hood. Give it a little download on Apple Music, YouTube Music, and Spotify, or just give it a little stream. We'd like to thank Ghost Hood for allowing us to play this here on the Rated R Safety Show. Hour number 1 of the Jay Allen in the Morning Show.
And levitated. We gotta shout, we gotta sing, and we make no apologies for celebrating.
You know, I always think it's kind of funny where people start getting all confused about the complication on how this show works. And so let me let me give the explainer because it comes up from time to time. We are simulcasting on Safety FM and Radio Big at the moment. Then when we go into hour number 2, we go directly to radiobig.fm, which you can find on iHeartRadio or TuneIn Radio, or you can find it on your Alexa skill, on Apple Music. I mean, you can find us pretty much a little bit of everywhere. But if you stay on Safety FM, it becomes a Sheldon Primus safety consultant show. So we go and stay on Radio Big is where we go. But we're also simulcasting. And then at the 10 o'clock hour Eastern time, this little thing right here, the first hour, becomes a podcast. I know, very confusing, very complicated to an extent. But we want you to stay with us live if you can do that. You know, for where you can hang out in the morning. And, of course, hour number 2 and number 3 are mostly focused on music and what is going on inside of the world of entertainment. So that way you kind of know exactly what is going on. And then looking around, it looks like the cluster of this morning that she lost the first 15 minutes of video was mostly because of my doing. Yeah, that's what it looks like. Looks like it was my issue on my end. So sorry about that if you're into the video feed. But, hey, listen, I always say the streaming stuff when it comes to the audio side, that's what we're looking for. But, hey, we love that you take a listen and view whatever you want to do, whatever works best for you. So let's talk about the most important thing that I'm going to tell you ever in my lifetime. And that's about my friends at 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. They can help you prevent suicide. The Lifeline provides 24/7 free and confidential support for people in distress, prevention, and crisis resources for you or your loved ones, and the best practices for professionals in the United States. To find out more information, all you have to do is go to 988lifeline.org. That's 988lifeline.org. Or you can text the word TALK to 988 or call 988. That's the best ways to do it. Listen, we all go through struggles sometimes, and we need someone to talk to, and that's perfectly fine to do so. So 988lifeline.org, best way to move forward with some of that information. Let's talk real quick about some other things that are going on. The old saying that money can't buy happiness, but that's not necessarily true. According to a recent study, money can buy happiness. It depends on the person. Researchers from the University of Pennsylvania and Princeton found that that on average, larger incomes are associated with increasing levels of happiness, but that happiness peaks at about $100,000 a year, and then platitudes. According to the study, the researcher says the exception is people who are financially well off but unhappy. For instance, if you are rich and miserable, more money won't help. For everyone else, more money was associated with higher happiness, or what happiness people think that it is. The happiness kept right on growing with their income even above $100,000. So, it's believed that when I see it, I'm never going to see it, am I? The good news, I guess, is to say that inflation is going pretty soon. You'll be able to make $150,000 before you see the happiness levels. So I guess that's some other way to take a look at it. I mean, I don't know. Do you associate your happiness with some level of money? Some people do. And I mean, listen, it's okay. I have people that I talk to that says that, money does not make them happy and they could care less if they were making money. But it's kind of always funny that people that are well off are the ones that tell me that. So I don't know. Here's another story real quick. With age comes wisdom. Although we're always been told that wisdom comes with age, 1 in 9 seniors say they still don't have life figured out. A survey of 2,000 Americans 64 and older dispelled the idea that the older people have all the answers, even though more than half of them everyone expected them to. 54% of seniors say that they feel like they're always or often pressured on them to make the best decisions, and nearly 1/9 feel that the decision making actually gets harder as they get older, 17%. The survey found that the older folks used to feel confident about making large financial purchases and investing on their own, but 1/3 would not consult with others before a decision beforehand. And if they were to ask about the type of financial decision, I advise them that they'd be just fine if they do exact opposite of what I told them to do. So, I mean, I guess that's one way to look at it. And this just proves that it's always suspected that the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. I mean, I guess that's one way to look at it. The more you know, the more you really don't know. I guess that's just one of those things. Anyways, take a listen to this. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell is out of the hospital. Brian Shook reports.
His office announced that the Kentucky Republican was discharged Monday after being treated for a concussion and a minor rib fracture. McConnell was hospitalized last week after a trip and fall during a private dinner at a Washington, D.C. hotel. The next step will be a period of physical therapy at an inpatient rehabilitation facility before he returns home. McConnell turned 81 years old last month. I'm Brian Shook.
Okay, thank you, Brian Shook, for the information right there. After a record storms this year, the California Flood Operations Center remains staffed and running as more wild weather approaches. Jeremy Eric, the Department of Water Resources, says that northern and central California waterways will start to rise again this week.
Several rivers will again reach flood or monitor stage Tuesday into Wednesday and even Thursday.
Heavy rain, saturated soils, and snow melt at a low elevation are all contributing to the rise of the area's waterways. 13 locations in the state are forecast to exceed the flood stage, and another 32 will be at a monitor stage in the next 5 days. The area of concerns are widespread, including Sacramento, San Joaquin Valley, and the central coast of the eastern Sierra Nevada. Floods and snow melt concerns are high in Southern California, where the incoming storm will arrive with rain and snow on Tuesday. Jeremy Eric with the DWR says the number of factors contributing to the flood are worrisome.
From the significant precipitation, the saturated conditions that we see out there, and then some of the snow melt at the lower elevations, all contributing to the increased runoff.
Jeremy also says that the high water will widespread 13 location exceeding flood stage and 32 more to monitor stage over the next 5 days.
These areas include the Sacramento Valley, San Joaquin Valley, coastal regions, and the eastern Sierra, spread pretty broadly across the state.
So I guess that's some stuff to think about as we are talking. Let's see if we can get some better news inside of here. Let's bring some John Small. Let him tell us about the Motivation Minute.
The Motivation Minute is courtesy of InsuranceChicken.com. Today's quote was submitted by Mariah. Billy Chapta said, "You flow differently when the right people are watering you." I love that. My wife and I have a friend who started having marriage issues. She'd been happily married for years. Then miraculously, when a coworker went through a divorce and began watering her, as the quote says, with negative thoughts towards men and marriage, she noticed that she was having issues. Now, we had the opportunity to open her eyes to what was happening, and she agreed that much of the problem was who she was listening to. She and her husband worked through the very real issues that were uncovered, but she quit spending time with that coworker too. It's amazing how quickly things can get better. This has been today's Motivation Minute, courtesy of InsuranceChicken.com. They're known for insurance quotes. I'm John Small. Thanks for listening. Your favorite motivational quotes can be submitted for upcoming programs at motivationminute.org.
Your Wellness Minute is brought to you by alessamorgan.com. When we think about incorporating more movement into our days, usually what comes to mind is things like walking and going to the gym. However, latest research suggests that subtle movement can be of tremendous help for weight loss and weight maintenance. Subtle movement entails things like fidgeting, balancing a knee, standing up and pacing several times throughout the day. These micro movements lead up to 20 to 30% difference in fat loss and weight loss without changes in diet. The other interesting portion is that it seems to work best for people who are already slightly overweight. This is important information to remember that small reductions in stillness can be an easy way to make progress towards wellness, even within severe time constraints. For more ideas and information on wellness, check out alessamorgan.com.
Listen at your own risk. Rated R Safety Show.
Okay, so there you go. Currently 54 minutes past the top of the hour as you and I are hanging out on this terrific Tuesday. So let's talk real quick about some things that happened back on this day, because I think that that's going to be partially important to what we have going on. So let's take a look. And back in 1990, Mikhail Gorbachev becomes president of the Soviet Union. He would eventually oversee the Soviet regime collapse before the end of the following year. His election was fairly democratic compared to the standards of the previous decades. He had been a popular politician whose agenda centered on the decentralizing the Communist Party control. He would resign as the Soviet Union dissolved as at the hands of his own reforms. So there you go. That happened back in 1990. If you're looking at some birthdays for today, here are some that I was able to locate. Stephen Curry turns 35. Sasha Grey turns 35. She's only 35? I didn't know that. I thought she was older. Like, seriously. Jamie Bell turns 37. Taylor Hanson, there is no age, so I don't know what that age is. Daniel Gillis turns 47. Corey Stoley turns 47. Brian Quinn, 47. Billy Crystal turns 75. And Michael Caine, yeah, he turns 90 today. So does Quincy Jones. And Frank Borman, he turns 95 today. If you're looking at some days of the year to celebrate, I have some of those for you. It's National Organize Your Home Office Day, International Day of Mathematics, National Potato Chip Day, International Ask a Question Day, National Pie Day, White Day, Science Education Day, Legal Assistance Day, Crowdfunding Day, National Learn About Butterflies Day, Moth-er Day, not Mother's Day, Moth-er Day, Dribble to Work Day. What do you mean dribble to work? That sounds a little weird when you start saying dribble to work. So there you go. Those are some days to celebrate if that's what you're into. If you're into celebrating some days that make no sense to anything else, but there you go. That's what it is. Anyways, let's continue with some other stuff. Let's talk about, did you know, keeping up with the latest news can be very bad for your health, according to a new study. Last year, researchers at Texas Tech University found that those who obsessively follow the news are more likely to suffer from both physical and mental health problems, including anxiety and stress. Those who constantly check the latest headlines end up significantly greater physically ill being. That can lead to a vicious cycle where people check for updates more and more often. This is a developing story. Stay tuned for more. You got it. So there you go. Anyways, if you need a random joke for today, let me give you one of those. Don't be part of the problem. Be the whole problem. If you need a phone starter for today, try this. What brands are you most loyal to? If you need something for the water cooler, try this. Question. In a survey asking about the common ways people have wrecked their phones, 42% said that they have done it this way. What is it? Put it in the washing machine. It's like wild monkeys in a washing machine. So there you go. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I should say this out loud. I have been very fortunate with the phones that I've had to this point in my life. How about yourself? I think I broke maybe like temporary glass, but not really the phone itself. So there you go. Just some stuff to think about. So there you go. We're leaving it off on the phone genre. So anyways, thank you for taking a listen to what the hell we have going on here, because it's always a fun time as you and I get to talk. Anyways, if you forgot about our event that's upcoming, Safety Worlds Collide, wanted to make sure that we reminded you about it again. Taking place May the 9th and the 10th in Phoenix, Arizona. Sam Goodman, Brent Sutton, and yours truly will be there doing the things that we do. If you want to find out more information, safetyfm.io. That's safetyfm.io. We have a couple of days going over the things that are colliding inside of our little world of safety. We can have all kinds of fun as we are talking about it. Anyways, thank you for always being the best part of Safety FM and Radio Big, and that is the listener, because without you, it does not make a lot of sense to do what we do around here. That is for sure. If you want to come over at the top of the hour and hang out on radiobig.fm, you're more than welcome on doing that. If I can leave you with a deep thought for today, I would love to leave you with this. A failure is like fertilizer. It stinks to be sure, but it makes things grow faster in the future. Think about that. A failure is like fertilizers. It stinks to be sure, but it makes things grow faster in the future. Anyways, I know who you are.
Duh.
You know who I am. Love you, mean it, and goodbye.
The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the host and its guest and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the company. Examples of analysis discussed within this podcast are only examples. They should not be utilized in the real world as the only solution available, as they are based only on very limited and dated open source information. Assumptions made within this analysis are not reflective of the position of the company. No part of this podcast may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, mechanical, electronic, recording, or otherwise, without prior written permission of the creator of the podcast, Jay.